Live from clickorlando.com, this is News 6. This is a News 6 Plus takeover. Here now is Chief Meteorologist Tom Sorrells with Talk to Tom.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Talk to Tom. I am Chief Meteorologist Tom Sorrells, and what you're tuning into is a dream come true for me, man. This is my own show between 5:30 and 6 right here on the powerful KMG every Thursday afternoon, or being streamed worldwide on News 6 Plus. This all started as what we like to refer to as social media. Before there was social media. We started this in 2004, letting you, the viewer, ask your questions as Hurricane Charlie stormed across our state. That day, we were able to put people on asking questions. I was able to answer, zoom in on radar, try to give you personal interface time. It worked out pretty well, and through the years, we would always use it during hurricane season. Then I started using the title, Talk to Tom, when I would do weather for radio stations from my house. I'd let you, the viewer, just watch me work and answer your questions on the side. Last hurricane season during Ian, my general manager loved it so much that he said, hey, we should do this on air once a week. So now we do. Talk to Tom every Thursday afternoon. Thank you for being here. We're going to have a person talk to us about energy solutions in the second half of this show from FP&L. Energy Solutions Specialist is going to be here to help you keep your money in your pocket and not have a high power bill. We'll get to that in the next 10 or 15 minutes. Right now, I want to jump into the questions. Our very first question comes to us from Thomas McGinn. Thomas says, can you explain why tornadoes, waterspouts, and fire tornadoes all rotate counterclockwise? Okay, for the most part, they do. Thomas, great question. They are pockets of low pressure or areas of low pressure. The Earth spins on its axis, and when it does, the equator spins at a different speed than the top. Okay, so it depends on, if you look at the globe, you see how fast it's going, it's spinning. As the low lifts, a thing called the Coriolis effect kicks in. And so if you look at any pocket of low pressure in the northern hemisphere, it spins counterclockwise. At high pressure coming down, hits the Earth and spins this way because the equator is going faster. So as pressure hits the Earth, it spins clockwise. When it does that, that creates high pressure. But if you're lifting off, it spins counterclockwise because it's low. And because of the Coriolis effect and equatorial drag, all of a sudden it spins. Sometimes you'll get some really isolated micro influences that will make a tornado go opposite instead of spinning counterclockwise. It'll spin clockwise if the wind burst drives it that way. For example, a lot of people talk about the way the water in your toilet or your bathtub will spin when it's going out of your bathtub or your toilet. People will tell you that in the southern hemisphere, the toilets spin the opposite way. That's not true. It depends on what the jets of the water forcing it into the bowl they're doing. If the jets force it counterclockwise, coming in from the top, they're laid in that way, then it will go clockwise. If it's the other way, it will go counterclockwise in that zone. But the influence of any low pressure center lifting off the Earth is the Coriolis effect. And because of that, that is why low pressure spins counterclockwise in the northern hemisphere. And that's why your tornadoes, your water spouts, and your fire tornadoes all pretty much rotate counterclockwise. Okay. Good question. People do ask it all the time. And the one they really get after me about is the bathtub drainage and the toilet bowl drainage. I'm telling you, that is more influenced by the jets in which way the water comes in. Okay. Thomas Gagan asked, does the carbon CO2 from rocket launches affect global warming or global weirdness? I used to always say that's crazy. No, there's not enough of them going up. We don't think so. It's not going to happen. But I've had this question before in the last 6 months here on Talk to Tom, something about the launches. And I did a lot of research at that time. I've not done research in the last 2 weeks on this, but I do know that with the number of rocket launches we are having, we are adding more carbon into the atmosphere. That's obviously true. So at first I thought, well, no, we don't do enough. It's not going to matter. But there's been a Yale study, I think it was Yale, did the study, and they do believe that at the pace we are doing it, that yes, the amount of CO2 we're putting into the atmosphere is going to be part of the equation, will be a player in our warm-up. So for that reason, I keep going back to, and I've received hate mail about it in the last week, about carbon capture. I firmly believe that this is a man-made problem and we're going to get a man-made solution. So two things here. Yes, quick answer, yes. We do believe that the rocket launches will eventually become part of the equation. I do believe in my heart and soul that carbon capture is going to be one of the biggest things we do to change global warming and global weirdness and get ourselves back on track. It's not going to do it in the next 2 years, next 5, next 10. It's going to do it in the next 50, next 100 as we figure things out and unlock it. We're going to go through a lot of hot times before we get the answers right, but carbon capture is going to be a big deal. It is. If you can figure it out, you can get yourself richer than Oprah. Yeah, you can. All right, let's talk to our friend Pate Turnage. Pate Turnage. How does the weather affect and tides? How does the weather and tides affect fishing in the ocean and the rivers? Okay, Pate. I myself am not a fisherman, so I've had to rely on my fisherman friends in the past. I've addressed this issue on TV before, back when we used to do Big Picture Weather Wednesday. I had an expert on every week. Our fishing guide was great, and so we would talk about fishing and what affects it, and high pressure and low pressure affect fish in different ways. Sometimes I have people talk to me about bass fishing, and they really like to fish during low pressure. When the pressure's lifting, storms are moving in, things are changing, the fish tend to rise in the water, come up higher because they're not being forced down by what they call high pressure. Pushing down on them. So they come a little bit higher, come up and feed on your bait more. So that's one way that the weather affects the fishing. Tides also affect it the same in a very similar way. I've had other fishermen tell me that high pressure makes it weird for the fish because it forces them down and they feel weird. And then when the low pressure comes around, they have fought the high pressure so much that the low pressure makes them feel queasy, as their bodies are also being affected by low pressure, and they feel bloated and full and don't want to eat. So I'm not sure who to believe, except I've seen lots of pictures of bass fishermen holding up fish with stormy conditions around. So I tend to believe that low pressure does make the fish bite. That is not scientific. That is totally observational. So with that said, let's talk about the tides. They also tell me that it's good to fish during a running tide. When a tide is running, which means it's either coming in or going out. Every 6 hours, the tide turns over. So you get a high tide, 6 hours later you get a low tide, and 6 hours later, high tide. At the time, like hour 5 and hour 6, when the tide is coming in at its highest point, sometimes the fish are closer in and higher up in the rivers. But for the most part, they tell me that you want to fish when the fish and the high tide or the tides are running. So when it's still coming in, like you go to low tide at high noon, wait an hour, 1, 2, then the tide is really coming back in. So 3, 4, 5, you do pretty well. Then when it stops and pauses at high tide, the fish stop biting for a while, they tell me, and then the tide goes back out. So when a tide is running, either coming in or going out, not when it's in the hour or two before it reaches its zenith. Hope that helps. All right, let's talk about Sally. Sally says, will we ever stop changing the time so we have more time outside? Sally, I'm not a big proponent of time change. I like it because it tends to balance things out. I think if we ever changed the time one way or the other and left it, people would be woefully unhappy. We have these bills introduced by congressmen who are so concerned about how much daylight we get in the afternoons that they neglect, balancing the budget, trying to find cures for things, whatever. So the time has suddenly become a big issue. Changing the time back and forth was an idea to help when we were an agriculture-based economy. Yeah, I'm a fan of standard time. So we have to go one way or the other. I'd go standard. I think most of you like the daylight savings time setup to where it stays lighter longer in the evening, no matter what. But if you do that all the time, it's going to be really dark in the mornings through a large part of the year. And you'll have times in the winter when the sun doesn't come up until almost 9 o'clock in places in North America. And I don't think you'll like that. So my guess is we'll keep switching the time back and forth for the foreseeable future. That's my thought. All right, that's going to wrap it up for the questions. You can always submit your questions to clickorlando.com/talk to Tom. I would love to answer those for you. You ask, I'll answer. Unless I don't know which one, I'll say, hey man, I don't know, but please submit those. Just head on over to clickorlando.com/talk to Tom to get your questions answered. Coming up, we're going to talk about the simple things you can do to keep your electric bill down as the temperatures are starting to climb. Stay with us. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Talk to Tom. I'm Chief Meteorologist Tom Sorrells, and I'm so glad you hung around for the second half of the show this afternoon. If you're watching us live on the powerful KMG, or if you're streaming us, thank you for sticking around for this part of the show. All right, we all know that Florida is hot, and the price of keeping your house cool can really start to add up. It's one of the most expensive things we go through at home maintenance here in Central Florida. So today, we've brought in Florida Power and Light Lead Energy Solutions Specialist, Laura Blair, to help you out. Hey, Miss Laura, welcome to Talk to Tom. How are you?
Good afternoon. Thank you. I'm doing good.
All right. I love your accent. Are you from Florida originally?
Yes. I'm from Panama City, Florida.
There we go. I'm originally from Nashville, Tennessee, and I've spent my entire life trying to hide my Southern accent for television purposes. So when I hear someone that sounds like home, I'm like, oh, she sounds like home to me. Hey, let's talk about how to keep our money in our pockets. Let's not pay too much for power. The P&L says that the optimal temperature to cool your home is 78 degrees. Is that still true?
Well, this is for energy efficiency, and 78 degrees or higher is the most energy efficiency setting in the cooling mode. And we do recommend 78 or higher in the summertime.
Wow. Okay, so we argue about this on set all the time. I don't know if you watch this very much or if you're a loyal viewer, but on set, between news stories, when those are rolling, we inevitably will go at each other and start bickering and picking each other. And I leave my house at about 77 degrees, close to 78, trying not to, spend too much money cooling. Matt Austin is a little bit below that. He's somewhere in that 74 to 75 range, or maybe 72. Ginger Gadsden, I'm going to throw her under the bus right now. Ginger sets that house that she lives in way down low in the 60s at night. She keeps it Arctic cold. Tell her now on Talk to Tom, she is really not being energy efficient, is she?
Well, 78 or higher is the most energy efficiency setting for when you're home. When you leave your house, you need to bump it up a couple of degrees.
Wow.
I would say no more than 82, because you want it to run enough to get take the humidity out of the home.
Right.
But if you're not there to enjoy the comfort of it, you need to bump it up a couple of degrees. But when you are home, 78 or higher is the most energy efficiency setting. And this is for energy efficiency.
Not for sleeping, because for sleeping, Ginger likes to knock it way down to like 63, 62 or something. That's crazy, right? That's going to be a high bill. That's not efficient. Come on, Lord.
That's going to be, yes, your heating and cooling system is going to run more at 63, because you know the difference between the hot summer temperature outside and what you want it inside. And the greater the difference, the more it's going to run. The system's going to run.
Okay, I'll stop busting on Ginger. Let's talk about it. Okay, so you keep it even higher when you're not at home. You address that issue because of the humidity. You can put it to about 82, and it still pulls the humidity out.
Yes, you want it to run some. Yes, to take the humidity out.
Okay. So what about cleaning? I've got a guy that I love. I won't name them for they don't pay money to be advertised here on Talk to Tom. But my AC guy, my service guy, is my guy. They've been my guy for 23 years, and they come and service me every spring. And my AC unit lasted almost 20 years in my house.
Oh, that's great.
Right. And so when it was over, we had to get a new one. He said one of the biggest reasons is because you service it. But servicing that is a great idea, correct? I'm doing the right thing by doing it every year. It keeps it running
yes.
Too, right?
Yes, we recommend for customers to change their filters out monthly. And one good tip is to help you remember this is when you get your power bill, change your filter out, and just let that serve as a reminder for you to change your filter and clean and service your unit a minimum of once a year, preferably twice, but at least once.
So, all right, let's talk about ceiling fans. I'm big on ceiling fans. It was one of the first issues I ever had with the lady who's now my bride. She would leave them on when we weren't home. And I'm a big, why do I come in the room and the ceiling fan's running if I'm not here? How much of a difference does a ceiling fan make, and when should you have them on?
Well, the ceiling fan it's air blowing across your skin, so it makes you feel better. So if you're not there, turn the fans off. If you're not in the room, turn them off, because if it's only air blowing across your skin, and it will save you about $7 a month if you turn those fans on when you're not at home or you're not in the room.
Talk to me real quick. We've talked about ceiling fans, keeping everything's clean, making sure you set it to the right temperature. What about anything else? You got any other cool tips or recommendations for me?
You want to make sure that your home is well insulated. You know how hot the sun is beating on your roof, and if you don't have that insulation or resistance, insulation is all in terms of an R factor, the amount of resistance you have from the heat coming into your conditioned space. So you want to make sure that you have insulation, particularly in your attic, and also your infiltration. You want to reduce your infiltration. So your windows, you want to make sure you caulk them. You want to make sure that if you see daylight from inside your home, that you use weather stripping around your doors if you see daylight around your doors. So you want to make sure that your home is well insulated and it's sealed. The other thing that you can do to save money if you have a pool is reduce your pool run time to the least amount of time to do the job. In the summertime, you may have to bump it up a little bit more than in the wintertime, but reduce it down to the least amount of time to do the job. Of course, you want a clean, nice pool. And I would start off with trying 6 hours.
Oh, really? So you run it to like between 10 and 4 and then just shut it down?
Well, you may have to kind of test this out for your particular pool and its size and that type of thing, but reduce the runtime to the least amount. Don't have it run all the time. Okay,
Linda, we're running out of time here. So if they want to find you and find out more about this, where should my viewers go? Where should they check you out?
FPL.com. And we have energy audits, and someone will come to your home and look over your particular situation. We'll be glad to do that and give you recommendations on your personal home.
Thank you so much for being on Talk to Tom, Laura. You were great. Fantastic interview. I appreciate it. And just one more time, I'm being much more energy efficient than Ginger Gadsden. Yes?
Yes, you are.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. If you have questions or want answers, submit them to us anytime on clickorlando.com/talk to Tom. You can watch us every Thursday right here on the powerful KMG between 5:30 and 6. And check us out anytime worldwide on News 6 Plus. And while you're there, be sure to check out Florida's Fourth Estate with Matt Austin and Ginger Gadsden.
I was engaged in a Publix. I'll tell you that story another time. But Publix subs are like deep within my childhood as somebody who grew up in Florida. When I think of the beach, I think of just grabbing a rolled up Publix sub and headed there.
Florida Foodie with Candace Campos and Lisa Bell.
We have heard fantastic things about your restaurant, the best seafood around.
Solutionaries with Lewis Bolden.
You know, we're all about solutions and impactful, creative, positive moments from around the country.
Like here in Houston, where community members are dedicated to keeping kids safe in school.
You need to learn signs and symptoms of pre-attack behavior.
And in Roanoke, we're looking for solutions to all kinds of issues, including answers for food insecurity.
How about a hurricane-proof neighborhood? Our Jacksonville crew made the trek to Southwest Florida to see the community that stood up to Hurricane Ian.
And riff on this, where meteorologist Samir Kokinos gives us a look inside Central Florida's incredible music industry.
And I do remember my sister dancing in front of a mirror to, it takes two to make a thing all right. I always remember that one. And I think, I just fell in love with hip hop from that point.
You can also check out our live cams. Hundreds of people sit down just to enjoy the beach from home, overlook the city beautiful, or watch the cruise ships come in. It's available free on News 6 Plus. Just download the app on your TV and start watching.